Hi, I'm Marsha Jews, and welcome back to Women of Color TV. We are so excited. We have a whole afternoon and all tomorrow and this evening. We have so many interviews. It's wonderful. This is so exciting. And right now, I'm very excited to introduce you to our next guest. This is really an important conversation. So, get out your pens and paper because we're going to have a real conversation here. I have with me Dr. Rachel Anderson, and she is a psychotherapist, and she deals primarily with individuals, couples, and family therapy. And she has a holistic approach from dismantling generational trauma. I can't wait to talk about that. Fostering spiritual awareness and empowering one's self-identity. Please help me welcome with a round of applause to Dr. Tiffany Anderson. Hi, how are you, Dr. Anderson?
I'm well.
I'm not hearing you. I don't know why.
You're not?
Wait a minute. Here we go. It's my fault. I'm sometimes technologically challenged. Do you have an area in your therapy for that?
Okay.
All right. So, first of all, tell us what made you decide to go into family therapy?
Oh, where do I begin? I think the catalyst was kind of experiencing kind of my own family dysfunction growing up. And, on one end, experiencing family dysfunction, and then on the other end, experiencing my grandparents' lovely marriage and seeing how they kind of created this culture of love and respect and openness. And so between those two, I wanted to really kind of restructure the family system if there was, any kind of dysfunction in any way. And it was a part of me beginning my own kind of healing journey and processing, what we experienced. And I completely come from a loving family, but we know with families, it's not
family.
Right. It's still dysfunction, right? And so my inspiration, to be honest, was really just working with primarily Black families and just helping them to restore that love and communication and that openness. So that was an inspiration.
It's really powerful. There are a lot of things that are people around me that are in mental health, from the Black Mental Health Alliance to Hirashi Henson's Family Foundation, which focuses on Black mental health as well. So this is a story that's real dear to my heart. And I think that one of the things that we as a community don't really want to deal with, and that's Black and brown people, that it's okay to really deal with our issue. Can you address how we can break that barrier down and the stigma around that?
Yeah, wonderful question. Well, we know historically the health field in general hasn't necessarily been kind to Black and brown people. And so we recognize that is where the stigma began and why it is still there for some individuals. So I first want to recognize that and normalize that because it is still a concern. However, with that stigma, we recognize that there are clinicians and medical professionals and folks that are really here to help and support and look like the folks that carry the stigma a lot of times, right? And so with that, with mental health in general, we want to recognize that you don't have to be crazy or odd or weird or something has to be wrong with you to seek help. What we're learning is that you actually want to seek help before you hit rock bottom.
Wait a minute. See, you just went all the way to the rock bottom. Isn't there something in between that might be a flag, a red flag?
You want to seek help before you get to rock bottom is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yes, because oftentimes, from my experience as a clinician, individuals come in at rock bottom.
Okay.
Right. So we want individuals to come in at the first sight of any type of discomfort or any type of need for support and assistance.
Mm-hmm.
And so those flags could be that we know that a transition is coming in our lives and we may need support. A flag may be a family member has gotten sick and we know that there may be kind of disastrous outcomes, right? So we want to come in early. We want to already have those supports set in place. So we know what to do, and we have some effective coping mechanisms in place for any type of outcomes, right, that are unforeseen. But the encouragement is you can simply come into therapy just because you want to talk to someone, just because you want an unbiased opinion, just because you're looking for support in a specific area of your life, right? It doesn't have to be the worst case scenario.
Okay. But one thing that you have on here that I think is very powerful, and that's that generational trauma. Can you delve into that a little bit and talk to us about that and the contra issues for that?
Yeah. So the first part of that is when we think of generational traumas, we think of family patterns that have been passed down from generation to generation. We think of certain behaviors that have been passed down from generation to generation.
Like what kind of behaviors? I like to put my finger up every time I want to insert something because you're in my sweet spot here. So what kind of little indicators, right?
I mean, there's so many. Just to give you some specifics, when we're thinking about trauma, there may be there could be physical punishments, right? And we think of historically where that started. Yes, historically where that started and what that meant. So when we think about the physical spanking or hitting, how it has been transferred from generation to generation, it has been taught that this is a part of your survival and a part of your safety. So I have to make sure that you don't repeat this behavior because this can get you killed. Right.
Wow.
And so we think about how that has been transferred. And now we're just doing it out of a pattern and out of pain and out of, again, something that's been taught to us. Right. You know, my mother did this, my father did, and I turned out all right. Right. So this is how we render our children today. And so now the discussion has shifted a bit and it's saying, OK, can we get the same results from a different approach?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so a different approach would be what?
There's various ones. There could be reward systems where if there's a desirable behavior that a child gets a reward, and something that could be playing, that could be screen time, right? Or that could be going outside and playing with your friends. So that's a part of the reward system where it doesn't involve kind of physical punishment. But when a desired behavior happens, it's like, okay, you're rewarded for this. And then it shows the child, okay, when I clean up my room or when I do this, I am rewarded for it. I don't have to get beat to then learn how to do it. A lot of times it's a lot of resentment that is built up instead. Like I'm doing it so I don't get beat, but not because I see the importance of doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's really huge. And our first instinct as a parent is that punishment becomes a physical experience.
Yes.
And so when we look at the way it is today, we've got some legal issues surrounding that as well, right? When you are spanking children now, it becomes a whole abuse and a whole thing now.
Right.
But there are other generational curses that have occurred that are impacting people emotionally and mentally and spiritually. Can you name a few more of those?
Yeah. Other ones we see is how we speak to each other. We see a lot of criticism, a lot of putting down, again, the intention is not a negative one. The intention is to say, okay, I want to change this. or I want to protect you from this because of the society in which we live, right? But how it feels to that individual is very critical. It could be the way one dresses, the way one presents themselves, one's sexuality, one's gender identity, all of these things that can, again, be very critical and feel as if it's that individual is not being valued or even loved. So we see that in families, individuals, all these things in regards to reasons why folks kind of enter therapy from the beginning. You see how what was instilled in them during childhood is now showing up in their adulthood. Yeah, and the way that they think about themselves. So that's one of them. But I just want to kind of tap into that because you see a lot of that in regards to self-esteem. I work with individuals on self-worth and how the way your parents, specifically your mother, how she speaks to you as an adult is the voice you hear in your head. Yeah. And you
that's
create,
deep.
yeah, so you can
That's
start to
deep.
create your identity around that and what you and how you feel about yourself. So a lot of that work taps right into childhood.
And so when you go through a therapy, one of your sessions, what is the parent taught to make certain that they're making the right decision about how they're disciplining or empowering, or I don't know is there a word called unempowering, I don't know what that word would be, but removing that power from them. How do we deal with that? Or how do you define that or describe it?
Yeah. It can be described as how you're discouraging your children, how you're leaving little room for them to decide certain things for themselves. And so with a parent, first you want to get down to the intention. What are you trying to do?
Okay.
Because 9 out of 10 parents literally are trying their best. And what they're doing is what the tool is, they're utilizing the tools that they have. My job is to empower them and give them more and to give them more tools, right? Because if I only have 5 and I'm using all 5, I am doing the best that I can, right? So I want to also normalize and to empower the parent that I see what you're doing. I commend what you're doing because it is the absolute best, but I'm going to encourage you and support you with these additional tools to help your child. So a lot of that is first tapping into the intention of it all. Next, we want to, again, provide additional tools. Okay, so this is what you're doing. Is it working? Let's talk about that. Have you considered, again, we were talking about the reward system. Have you considered charts and different, stickers and different things? Have you considered sitting down with your child and talking to them after a punishment? Right? I know we're busy and I know we're moving and I know the life. Right. But these are little humans and they're going to grow up. We want to make sure they're as secure as they can be.
I understand that concept.
Yeah.
So there are other things too that we have to deal with, and particularly for women where we've had sexual abuse. And how do we create an environment, and how do you create the environment for that discussion to be had and in a real authentic way that helps people navigate through, because sometimes that's generational and it's part of those generational curses that right?
Yeah. And Marsha, I'm glad you brought that up because that was in the back of my mind earlier with that question.
It's real.
It is. It absolutely is. For me, what I tell my clients is that I can't guarantee a safe space because safety lies within them. They get to decide that. What I can provide is a brave space that we can have these conversations. And what I also can provide is a non-judgmental space. Yeah. There's nothing here that will change the way I see you as a beautiful human being. Nothing that you can present to me that will change my outlook of you. So that's something we guarantee in the beginning. As we're building rapport, we recognize that first, your story is allowed here, and you get to tell that story, and you get to control the narrative of that story. Yeah, that's number one, because we see that a lot where folks tell the story. No, here you tell your story. A lot of that is also pacing. You get to pacing the story, because I recognize when you're talking about trauma, we don't want to re-traumatize a client either. So they get to pace their story, right? Where I'm following them and not pushing them further than where they're willing to go. Yeah. And next, and again, this is not necessarily step by step because everyone's story is different.
Yeah, but it sounds good. This works. Right.
I want to be clear about that, and honor those women and those men with stories of trauma. But next, it's really, now we have to find meaning in all of it. Right?
Meaning. What do you mean meaning? Meaning, and I've been abused and I got to deal with it. What does that meaning?
No. Yes. So I want to be clear. Yeah, I want to be clear. When I talk about meaning, so our lives have meaning. Yes. So when I say meaning, just an understanding of what came from this. Who are you now? What are you trying to discover? What are you further trying to explore?
Okay, great.
Sorry. Yeah.
Continue.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, what are you trying to explore, and how? And so we talk about the healing journey. So what's next? And again, every story is different. Every process is different. But the underlying thing is really just giving them room to tell their story and to really kind of collaborate with a therapist about that healing journey and what they need. Because everyone's need after the trauma is not going to be the same. The need was, I want to talk to my mother about this. Can we bring her in? The need may be, okay, I've moved past it, but it's just this one part of my life and relationships that I'm still struggling with. Can we tap into that, right? So we want to get to the need. What's the desire in the healing process? What would we like that to look like?
And that healing is real critical as you move forward. You know, you don't want to be 50 years old holding on to some madness that you can be dealing with and move it on and put it out of your life. It doesn't need to go into the back pocket or put it in an envelope and put it in the drawer, because it's still in your person.
It's in your body.
It's in there. We need to make it move.
Yes.
We need to make it move. We need to treat it like a bowel movement.
That's a great way, a great analogy to use.
I'm sorry, but
I think it's brilliant, Marsha. I think it's brilliant.
Right? So it never comes back.
Yes. One time, right.
One shot. Right. But it's real. It's real.
It is.
And how do you compact that? So if you've been in an environment where there are different kinds of layers of abuse, you may be getting abused emotionally or mentally at work.
Yes, see it all the time.
Which is a whole nother.
Yes.
That's a whole nother animal.
Yes.
Because you can't cuss them out and slap them if you want to stay employed and pay the house note.
Yes. And you know what? That is such a great point, because I see that a lot. Folks being miserable at their jobs. And this is why therapy is great. You can come to me and say whatever you want, right? And whatever you wanted to say to your boss, you say it to me.
Right.
You say it to me, because I'm not going to take it personal, because you're not right? So you release that to me, and then we can say, okay, now we feel better. What are the next steps? Are we applying to jobs? Are we working on coping mechanisms? What are we doing, right? So therapy is that space to just get it out and then say, okay, I feel better. I'm not bottled up. Now I can start the process of, okay, finding that direction of how long I want to be here. Do I need to have discussions? Can I empower you to have a sit down with your boss, right? Sometimes it's talking about raises. Okay, let's talk about step by step. right? How can we start with an email first? Right? So that is therapy. Like this is real life situations
Right.
that could be huge. And that can, when I say huge, I'm thinking of long-term trauma, but it
Yeah.
can also be everyday life. I am just sad today and I want to talk about it.
But it's going to impact you, whatever is happening negative at
Yes.
work that you have to deal with. Some of that is going to happen. It's going to lay off onto your child or your husband or your wife or whomever. And you don't know what to do with that.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Because you bring it home.
What do you do? How do you package that so that you're protecting the people who really love you?
Good question. I think the immediate unpacking of that is when you leave that workspace, which is a bit different now because a lot of us are working from home. So I want to note that.
Thank goodness, in those cases, right.
So before you had the 15 to 45-minute drive home to process that through and say, okay, I'm leaving that at the job.
Okay.
And I'm coming to my family and I'm turning that work thing, that work switch off. I know it sounds easier than what it is, but a lot of folk have, intentionally done that because they don't want to bring that into their home and into their space. That can also be that having a time discussion. Okay, we're talking about this for the first 10 minutes and then we're done.
Okay.
Right. And then I'm spending time with my kids, my husband, my wife, I'm spending intentional time with them. And so that's a part of the kind of that packaging. Something else that has been helpful to individuals is that when they are showering after work or bathing or whatever, visualizing all that stress and angst and dis-ease rolling off of them into the shower and just coming off of them. And that's that visualization.
That's a visual.
That's that
yes.
meditation, all of that has been very helpful. That, hey, you can let this go. You do not have to carry this. And then, when you get back into the job again, working through that, what are the next steps?
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly is really addressing the issue, right? It's oftentimes we can kind of shut off.
Right.
And not process through what we're actually feeling, right? Because there's individuals at our job that trigger us emotionally. We don't know why. And so a lot of that is like, who does that person remind you of?
Oh.
Who does that person remind you of in your family that is emotionally triggering you?
Or that sixth grade teacher.
Yeah.
Miss Deerdorf.
Yeah. So it may not be that person specifically. It may be the internal trigger that they're causing within you that you have to process that out. That's real. Work.
Girl, that's real.
That you have to do.
Oh, she's from South Bend, Indiana. That was back in 1967. She probably did. She was in 70 then. They're talking about, I can't give no names. Miss Deerdorf is dead. She been gone. You don't have to worry about her, but she was mean. Lord, create trauma every time you walked into her room. No, but it's real. But you know what? We're laughing about it. But there are some of those people that are teachers and they're supposed to be loving and kind and there's supposed to be all these things. And here it is. I mean, that was 1950. So I don't know, I'm almost 70. So I still remember Mary Jane Deerdorf. That's crazy.
Yes. So that's attached to a memory.
I need to call you about this one. I mean, it's a memory. We're still talking about the sixth grade Pearly School.
Wow.
Right?
Mm-hmm. We know those.
And so how do we deal with, and then, today it's even worse. So, which makes me segue now into how are we dealing with, as a people, all of these trauma views of these murders of Black people by the United States Police Department from across this country. Yeah. How do we process what we're seeing? And these are the things that we see. We don't even know what we're not seeing, right?
Right.
Right,
Right.
right. So you can only imagine. What would you say to parents and to children about how to navigate this? You know,
Yeah. Um, First I want to, note that as Black folk, as yeah, as Black people, we are experiencing this together. I am not exempt from the feelings because I'm a therapist, right? So I want to normalize that we as a people are feeling the trauma of, the deaths of our brothers and sisters across the world. I think there needs to be more conversation with our babies around it.
yes.
We can't deny its truth. We can't deny that it's happening, and they're paying attention whether we realize it or not.
Mhm.
They are paying attention. A lot of the kids will say the first, did they get shot by a police? Right? So they know, they're watching, they're paying attention. So
Mhm.
first there needs to be open and honest discussions around what is happening in the world today with your children. I see parents try to shield it. They don't want them to kind of see the world for what it is at this point. And I understand that. But the way the world is now, they're seeing it and
Yeah,
they're exposed to it. So the
yeah,
conversation needs to come from the parents, which is the safest place for it to come from.
mhm.
And so again, that is processing it with your babies honestly and openly, and seeing what their fears are. Because
Mhm.
we talk about trauma, Marsha, this is trauma for them. This
Yes,
is, yeah, this is trauma for them.
yes,
And it's not even happening right, directly to them necessarily, but seeing the images and the videos, that is vicarious trauma.
yes.
That is vicarious trauma. And I encourage folk to be aware of what you're watching and what you're seeing over and over and over again, because it can really kind of desensitize us as a people to seeing our Black bodies on the ground.
Right,
Yeah, so that's
right.
something else I want to add. So it starts at home.
Mhm.
The conversations start at home. Um, the beautiful thing that I do want to note, Marsha, is that there has been an increase in Black individuals seeking therapy at this
I
time.
love it.
It has been, I mean, phone call after phone call after phone call, with them openly saying, I'm looking for a Black therapist.
Mhm.
I'm struggling with what I'm seeing on the news.
Mhm.
I'm struggling with how I feel internally
Mhm.
about being Black in America, right? So we are coming in droves to therapy. So that is one positive thing that I have
Yes,
noticed.
yeah.
And I hear Black therapists talking about, like, I am full, or we just hired another therapist because we're full. We're like, okay, nope, we
Mhm.
need more support. Let's add someone else, because there's more people that need support and assistance. Yeah. So
It's
doing,
huge.
yeah. So just doing your part, but the conversation definitely starts at home.
Well, and I have to say that I'm traumatized.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm traumatized. I'm not going to try to shade it, cover
Yeah.
it, but I can't. I'm a wreck after each one of these, and I'm getting teary now
Yeah,
because it's huge,
it is.
and and why is it even allowed to occur?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you.
So I'm glad you're here, and I think
Mm,
that it's real critical for all of us, particularly, the maternal, all of the women who are here, who are at this conference. We're all dealing with something.
yes, absolutely.
There's something happening, be it personal, be it at work, be it with your friends, be it what you see, be it wherever you go to the store, where you get your hair done. There's someone somewhere has the ability to impact you by their behavior or the words that they say.
Absolutely.
And it's how you deal with it and how you work with it in order to feel safe internally, emotionally, and mentally,
Right.
and having all of the tools that you need in order to do that.
Absolutely.
And so if we need to have your information, and maybe if, I don't know if you have books or whatever, but I think that we need to have more conversations about this in depth
Yes.
conversation about all of these different things. And one of the things you said is about empowering one's own identity. Can you touch on that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Who are you? That's where we start. Who are you?
Right.
Who are you trying to be? And what does the world think you should be? Yeah.
That's a good question right there.
Right. Because what we're trying to discover is your authentic self. The self that is full of your truths and not others. Right.
Yes.
And so with that, that's a real discussion. That's a real topic. And I ask folk all the time, who is that? Or who are you outside of a relationship?
Yeah. Ooh. Because there's a different personality sometimes.
Yes.
But is that schizophrenia?
It's a little bit more in depth than that. But,
okay.
But, so we're trying to dig into your authentic self. And so that process in itself could take some time, right? Depending on how many masks you're wearing. Yeah. And so with that is trusting that who you are at your core is good enough and worthy to be loved. Yeah. Because the masks we use is the ones that we think will receive the most love and the most validation and the most acceptance. Yeah. So when we dig to the core and find out, but who are you really? That's falling in love with yourself all over again and really kind of accepting that true identity. That is raw and real and honest. And so that's scary.
It is scary.
That is some scary.
Right. That means you got to work.
Yes. You have to work and you have to begin to identify what's not true for you.
What? Ooh.
Because think about it. So as children, we are rendered to believe the thoughts of our parents, right? What they pour into us becomes our truth. So as we get older, we start saying, I don't think I agree with that anymore. Am I okay with living that though?
Okay.
Yeah. Am I okay with being honest about that truth? Right. Okay. That I don't identify with that anymore. No love lost, Mom, but that's not my truth. Right. So part of that is really kind of dissecting what's your truth, what's not. What's your truth, what's not. So again, falling back into love with that child that was so real and honest with themselves. Yeah. And finding out who that is.
I feel like I want to go to the little 5 and below and get a clear mask and paint it for every mood and everything that I think I need to be, and then just pick it up and put it on
every time.
And go to let's see, who am I? Who do I need to be for you? Or you?
For you. But the question is, who do you need to be for you?
Right. And how do you take those layers off to get that authentic self?
Yeah. Work. But again, the process is with someone who is there to
navigate
navigate and really kind of advocate for you doing the work.
Yes, but you can't do it by yourself.
Yeah, it's a journey one way or the other. But with therapy, you have someone there that's challenging you when you get stuck. That you say, okay, I don't like those masks, but I'm gonna keep this. And we say, okay, let's talk about why you want to keep that one in particular.
That's
So
right.
that's the process. Yeah.
That's huge. That's huge. So how do we get in touch with you? How do we, do you have a website? Do you have an email? Do you have a number?
Yes. So how
All
do
of the
we
above.
get in touch? Yes. So you can email me at tcrowntherapy@gmail.com.
Okay. That's T,
As in
Tiffany,
time. Yeah.
Crown Therapy,
Yes.
um, .com
Yes, at gmail.com.
at Gmail,
Thank
at
you.
email.
It's all on the screen.
So give us, before you go,
Mhm.
this is October, we're in COVID.
Yes.
Woo, we're in COVID. And we're locked down. We're on lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
We're not seeing, we're not touching, we can't go
Right.
out without our mask. We're living. Give us 3 things that we should be doing to keep our mental and emotional health intact in this closed world.
Right. 3 things. Number 1, pick up your hobby. Go back to the thing you like to do. And
Okay.
even, and so with that hobby, it could be running in the gym. Okay, we can't run in the gym. You got to find somewhere else to run, but you still need to run, right? And so pick up that hobby that you left 3 months ago because you were so busy. Now you have time.
Right.
Pick it up. Next, learn something new. Learn something new. I know there's been something on your mind that you wanted to learn that you didn't have enough time to do. Now you have time. Go learn it, YouTube it, look it up, learn how to do it, go buy those materials. I give you permission to spend a little money on learning something new. And lastly, exercise your mind. If that is reading, if that is, like I said, moving, if that is crossword puzzles. My grandmother did crossword puzzles until she was about 89 years old. And she said, this is how I stayed living this long, because I kept my mind sharp.
Yeah.
So keep your mind sharp, because this is a lot of downtime and it can really impact your mental well-being and your mental health. So you want to keep it sharp. You want to keep it moving. You want to keep it in a positive mood as much as possible. So keep it going. Don't lose sight of your hopes, your dreams. But again, pick up that hobby and keep it going. Keep it going. Yeah, we're in this together. I want you to know I'm home
We
too.
are.
We are in
Yes.
this together.
Yes. And, doctor, I'm telling you, these are some really great points. And this is a very difficult time for a lot of people.
Yes.
And your words have been very helpful to me. Sometimes you need confirmation, or sometimes you need somebody to say something that you actually want to listen to.
Right. I appreciate it.
Right?
Yes.
Because it's real.
Thank you.
It's real. And I appreciate you. And I like your spirit.
I like yours, Marsha. I like yours. We got to do this again.
We do have to do this again. We're going to talk offline, but I'm going to tell you something. This is really, really important. And I'm so glad that Ray Kennedy brought you to us. And I think it's huge. This is very important to me.
Thank you.
And it should be important for all of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Take care of yourselves, please.
Okay. Yes. And you do the same.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
All right. Dr. Tiffany Harris, thank you very much. All right. I hope you all learned a little something. This was a powerful segment, and it was a surprise. I wasn't expecting it. So please take this and use these little nuggets to help you deal with some of the things that are going on, or with your friends or neighbors, or you never know. So, but I'm Marsha Jews, and we'll be back after this message.